So guys, the Cowboys just wrapped up their final joint practice with the Saints, and let me tell you, this one got way more heated than anybody probably expected. What was supposed to be another important day of work before the next preseason game quickly turned into a pretty chaotic session, with tensions boiling over multiple times throughout the practice. We also got some strong individual performances, some young players making their case, and a few things that the Cowboys are absolutely going to want to clean up before they move forward. So let me explain everything that came out of this wild Cowboys Saints joint practice, what actually matters, and what Dallas needs to take away from it. What's up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All right, let's dive right into this because honestly, there is a lot to get through today. We have to start with the fights because if you were watching any of the clips online today, you already know this practice got heated fast. I mean, we are talking somewhere between 8 and 10 separate incidents. Punches thrown, helmets flying off, guys getting pulled down to the ground by their jerseys, the whole 9 yards. Even Dak Prescott got heated at one point and had some words for a couple of Saints players who he felt were doing way too much out there. Now look, joint practices get chippy. That's just kind of normal at this point in camp. But this one crossed the line more than a few times. It wasn't just some chirping back and forth here and there. It was full-on scuffles breaking out across different parts of the field. And honestly, it got to a point where you had to wonder if they were just going to shut the whole thing down early. But worth remembering, underneath all of that chaos, Dallas actually had a pretty productive day of work out there. So let's get into the actual football, because trust me, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. Starting with the defense, because honestly, this might be the best part of the entire practice. The pass rush showed up in a big way today. Rashan Gary brought consistent pressure and actually picked up 2 sacks on the day. Malachi Lawrence got home for a sack, and James Houston was right there with him for another one. That interior push from Kenny Clark paired up with Quinnen Williams is exactly the kind of thing this defense has been missing for a while now, and Quinnen Williams was an absolute problem down there today. I mean, watching him just discard blockers like they weren't even there and get straight to the football, that's the kind of interior presence that can change a defense completely. On top of all that pressure, the defense also came away with multiple turnovers. Reddy Steward read a tip ball off of Cobie Durant's hand and brought it in for an interception, and later on Jalen Thompson also picked one off in a totally different rep. Both of those turnovers came with the defense showing real discipline in coverage, not just guessing and getting lucky off a tipped pass. And I want to point out Justin Barron here too, because the communication he showed before the snap was honestly pretty impressive to watch. Getting the front 7 lined up, calling out gaps, directing traffic like a guy who has been doing this for years, not months into his career. That's the type of stuff that doesn't always show up on a stat sheet, but it matters a ton once the season actually starts and things speed up. Add in the fact that the run defense held up well against the Saints for most of the day, and you walk away feeling pretty good about where this unit is trending heading into the regular season. Honestly, when you stack up the sacks, the 2 picks, and the way the front 7 controlled the line of scrimmage, this was probably the most complete performance we have seen from this defense all camp. And that's not something I say lightly. Now let's talk about the matchup that honestly stole a lot of the attention today, and that's Caleb Downs going up against Chris Olave. There was one rep where Chris Olave flat out won the battle. High pointed the football, came down with it clean, and Caleb Downs was just a step late getting his head around to actually make a play on the ball. There's some real debate about whether the ball hit the ground on the way down, so it's not even a totally clean loss if we're being honest, but either way. The coverage itself was tight, and Chris Olave simply made the tougher play in that moment. And look, I'm not going to sit here and act like that's some kind of disaster for Caleb Downs. This is exactly the kind of rep a rookie needs early in camp, going up against one of the better route runners in the entire league right now. You take that rep, you learn from it, and you move forward with it. And just a little while later in that same practice, Caleb Downs completely blew up a run play from that safety spot, diagnosing it the second the ball was snapped and filling his gap before the running back even had a real chance to get started. So instead of framing this whole thing as Caleb Downs getting exposed out there, I'd honestly rather frame it as Caleb Downs getting tested, and that's a really good thing for a rookie heading into his first real NFL season. Alright, shifting over to the offense now, because Dak Prescott and George Pickens continue building on what they started together last season. Yeah, Dak Prescott did throw a pick today, but from what I saw on that play, that ball probably ends up being a sack in a real live game instead of an actual throw. More importantly, though, the chemistry between him and George Pickens just keeps growing week after week. There was one play in particular where George Pickens went up and high-pointed the football down the sideline, and honestly, we are going to be seeing a whole lot more of that once the season actually kicks off. Jake Ferguson also had another strong showing out there, which has honestly become a pretty consistent theme for him throughout this entire camp. And a fun little moment after practice wrapped up, CeeDee Lamb and Chris Olave actually swapped cleats with each other once everything was done. Small little detail in the grand scheme of things, but it's a nice reminder that even with all the fighting going on earlier, there's still a lot of mutual respect between both of these rosters. Now let's get into the running back room, because there's some real competition brewing there right now. Malik Davis continues to make the most of every single opportunity he's given, and today was really no different from any other day. Meanwhile, Jaden Blue didn't get any first-team reps today. Phil Maffa wasn't even out there on the field, and Hunter Luepke ended up leaving practice early as well. So with all of that combined together, it just opens up even more chances for Malik Davis to keep proving his case to the coaching staff. And it puts a little extra pressure on both Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa to respond once they're actually back out there on the field. Alright, now let's cover the stuff that still needs some work, because honestly, there is some. The backup offensive tackle struggled again today, and that's slowly becoming a bit of a recurring issue throughout this camp. Nate Thomas and Drew Shelton are getting most of the reps at tackle right now, and there's still clearly some work to be done there before the gains actually start counting for real. On top of that, I'm honestly not sure this roster has a truly reliable fourth outside corner locked in just yet, and that might be something the front office has to go address before the regular season kicks off. Special teams had a rough moment too. Marquise Bell picked up a hands to the face penalty, and you just can't have that happening out there. And the punt return situation still feels a little bit unsettled beyond Cavante Turpin, so that's another thing worth keeping a close eye on going forward here. None of these issues are season-ending, but they're the kind of details that can decide close games once the schedule actually gets going. Okay now, at the end, I want to talk something about Von Miller because I honestly think this signing matters a lot more than some people realize. He's 37 years old at this point, so nobody in their right mind is expecting the version of Von Miller from 5 or 6 years ago. Realistically, we're probably looking at somewhere around 15 to 20 snaps a game for him once the season starts. What stood out to me the most is how much work he put in this offseason with BT Jordan, who is now the pass rush coach here in Dallas. From what's out there, BT Jordan was actually the one pushing the front office to go get Von Miller in the first place, telling them straight up that if they had the room and needed a pass rusher, this was the guy to go get. And honestly, that tells you something. This isn't about needing Von Miller to be the guy chasing quarterbacks down for 60 plays a game anymore. It's about getting a handful of high-value snaps, some real leadership in that locker room, and a veteran presence who still knows exactly how to get after the quarterback when it actually counts the most. If Von Miller can stay healthy and give this team a burst of pressure in key situational moments throughout the season, that's a win for everybody involved, even if the box score doesn't always show it. So, here's honestly where I land on all of this. The defense generated real pressure all day long. Guys like Caleb Downs, Justin Barron, and Reddy Steward flashed in ways that really matter. Dak Prescott and George Pickens kept building on that chemistry. And Von Miller is finally starting to ramp up toward whatever role they've got planned for him this season. At the same time, there's still some real questions at backup tackle, at corner depth, and at returner. And obviously, this team has still got to figure out how to keep its composure once real football actually starts counting. Preseason games are right around the corner now, and honestly, I think that's exactly where we start finding out which of these storylines actually mean something once the pads come off and it's not just joint practice chaos anymore. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know what you think about all these fights, and I will see you guys in the next one.